Queen Elizabeth. The Spanish government managed to find 3 Portuguese men who would agree to poison the Queen. One of these 3 was her own physician, Dr. Rodrigo Lopez, who'd been living in London for decades. But the plot was betrayed, the 3 were tortured and confessed, and of course as traitors condemned to death and executed horribly, hanged, drawn and quartered.
Now, if I was a really subtle food taster, how am I going to be able to tell that there's poison there?
The first thing you're going to notice is a very strange grittiness. But it's not going to be so strange that you're going to feel, I shouldn't eat this. You'll swallow it.
And what's it going to do to me?
Oh, that's appalling. The first thing you're going to feel is a sort of burning. Not necessarily strong, but something going on in the mouth. If you've got an empty stomach, within an hour you're going to start vomiting uncontrollably. You're going to have extreme pains in the stomach area. It feels like rats gnawing on your insides. And then after about an hour, perhaps 2, you're going to start suffering from purging, which is a polite way of saying...
That's enough. So Elizabeth I was paranoid. She saw poison everywhere. Every dish was tested before she ate. Even her gloves and handkerchiefs were checked in case they'd been impregnated with something nasty. And it was her disposable servants who were put in the front line. The royal food taster comes into the room. Is there any ceremony?
There is, yes. The ladies in waiting would come and begin the ceremony by laying the table. And then the men would bring each dish from the kitchen and lay it on the table. And the ladies in waiting would supervise. Each person who'd brought a dish was then required to eat 1 bite from the dish that he had carried. And when this ceremony was complete, and there might be as many as 20 or 25 dishes, then it was safe for the monarch to eat from these dishes. Remember, this is a time of invasion, potential invasion by the Spanish. The monarch embodied all that was England and thus had to be kept completely safe. You had to have food tasters.
So being a royal food taster wasn't bad because you were actually going to die. It's just that you were terrified you were going to die.
Yeah, that's about it.
Well, this food was still pretty good.
Potentially dangerous.
Yeah. Elizabeth's court didn't have a permanent address. To ensure the loyalty of her subjects and to save on housekeeping, the Queen went walkabout, and the whole court went with her. In the summer of 1578, they plonked themselves on 25 different households, saving the equivalent of £10,000 per day. It may have been a good deal for the Queen, but for the men and women of the court, it was like moving house every day, and the biggest load was literally on... And I don't just mean 1 or 2 carts. We're talking 200 or 300, and everything in them had to be offloaded and got into the staying house on time and in order, ready for the Queen's arrival. So if you were the groom of the chamber, you had to be something like a cross between Paul Burrell and Arnold Schwarzenegger, which isn't a very attractive image, really, is it? Summer tours or progresses would last 8 to 12 weeks, and each stay needed days of preparation. When Queen Elizabeth II goes off on a royal tour, it's all pretty relaxed. She just has the odd bit of red carpet and the occasional 5-star hotel and a private jet or 2. But Queen Elizabeth I was much more demanding. The groom of the chamber had to take out of her palace all of the Queen's necessary possessions. That meant not only the furniture and the carpets, but the pictures and the wall hangings and her jewellery, her legal documents. And the Queen was renowned for having quite a temper on her. So if you wanted to avoid her wrath, you had to have great big muscles and patience and a phenomenally good memory. Simon Bowyer, who organised the tour in 1578, had all those qualities. At the Mutas estate, he spent 2 days setting up with his team, only for the Queen to change her mind after staying for dinner and set off for another location. Add to this indecisiveness Elizabeth's bouts of toothache, and the groom of the chamber had the boss from hell. She wasn't much of a guest either. So not everyone was that happy about having to lay out the old red carpet. In fact, there was an estate called Gotham Place where they were so worried about the possible expense and hassle of having a royal progress that they decided they'd try and put the Queen off by all collectively feigning a kind of madness. So the royal progress turns up and all the aristocrats and servants there suddenly go, "Whoa!" and the progress all run away absolutely terrified. Although I suspect that the groom of the chamber had a bit of a smile on his face when he left. The groom may have ended up with a strained back and frayed nerves, but at least he had a roof over his head. Not all royal employees were as lucky. With the court moving around so much, communication became vital to the institution of the monarchy, hence the job of royal messenger. Ta-da! The royal messenger was important not just simply in order to tell people where the king and queen were at any particular moment in time, but also to let them know about royal births and deaths and marriages and much darker things like intrigues and stabbings and assassinations. Anything you wanted to know, the royal messenger would let you know it. Come on, come on. Started a system of messengers that rode between staging posts. In time it became the Royal Postal Service, which is why the monarch's head is still on stamps. But for early messengers, every journey was tough and fraught with danger. When Elizabeth I died, it was royal messenger Sir Robert Carey who rode to Scotland to tell James, the heir to the throne, he was now king. Riding in all weathers, he also had to avoid potential assassination from those who wanted to delay news of the Queen's death.
The marshal met me coming and bade me begone, for he had learned for certain they would betray me.
Wind, rain, 200 miles and people waiting to kill me. I can't wait. But Sir Robert had to press on, because for the royal family, succession is vital. The whole institution is based on births, deaths, and conceptions. Was the Queen going to have a baby? Was it the King's? The evidence was going to be right here among the royal sheets. And one of the people who would have known most about it was a worse jobber. Not an aristocrat, but the person round the back mopping up after all this messy business. The royal washerwoman. But being a royal washerwoman was tough, messy, and also surprisingly dangerous.
You can see why so very many women died drowning, can't you?
Died drowning?
Yeah, huge cause of death amongst Elizabethan women. Falling in wells, slipping in ponds, all that sort of thing, whilst you're busy bucket up